Hey everybody, and welcome in to another video. I am Ty. Today we are doing my top 10 records of 2023. So this is going to cover a wide range of genres, basically a good representation of all the different type of stuff that I listen to. And 2023 was a good year. It was a good year for music. It was a good year for tours. A lot of good records have come out this year. So I'm stoked to kind of relive it a little bit. Honestly, it's been a year of pretty big change in my life, and these records have been a part of that. So I think a lot of these records will kind of stand the test of time with me, and we'll see. But like I said, it's been a good year for tours as well. Saw a bunch of different bands this year and a bunch of different really cool live shows. So all in all, for music, it's been a really, uh, really cool year. And I look back on it fondly, and I think I'll have some lasting memories throughout the rest of my life when it comes to music in 2023. Alrighty, guys, we're going to go 10 to 1. So I'm going to start with a record that came out May 26th, 2023 from Nuclear Blast Records. It's the debut album by this band, and they're kind of a heavy metal supergroup, and that is Elegant Weapons with Horns for a Halo. This is Richie Faulkner's side project. If you don't know who Richie Faulkner is, he's the guitar player in Judas Priest. He took over when KK left a few years back, and has been in the band ever since. I'm a huge Richie Faulkner fan. Think he's a really cool dude. Love listening to interviews with him, and I think he's been a big influence on bringing Priest back to the prominence that they've gained in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years again. So this is his side project that he did with Ronnie Romero on lead vocals. Also featuring on this album are Rex Brown on bass and Scott Travis on drums. So you do have some talent on this album. Really talented rhythm section. Obviously Scott Travis from Judas Priest and Rex Brown from Pantera. Now the current live lineup is different than what's on the record, but we're talking about the record, so that's who's on the record. This is a fun hard rock record, kind of bluesy, good little romp throughout. I'm always impressed with Richie Faulkner. I love his work in Judas Priest, like I said, and this album is no different. Also, Ronnie Romero, that dude can really sing. He's awesome. From Rainbow, whenever Richie wants to do Rainbow, and a plethora of other projects, Ronnie has a great voice. For a lack of a better comparison, reminds me a lot of Ronnie James Dio, and I think he does that on purpose. But he has a great voice he can sing. He can sing like Ronnie, which is very impressive. This is an album that wears its influences on its sleeves, but it's definitely not derivative. Like, they're doing some different stuff here. It's a fun record. I would say if you're into like Black Country Communion, this is probably up your alley. Black Country's probably a little bit more on the bluesy side. This is more on the metal hard rock side, but kind of a similar vibe with the supergroup project stuff. So this is a fun and easy listen. It's not too long. I want to say it's like right around like 45 minutes or so. And it's got some great playing and some great vocals. So if you want something new that's just a good hard rock record, I would suggest check this out. Also, if you're a fan of Richie Faulkner's playing, definitely check this out. Like I said, this is from Nuclear Blast Records. This is the strictly limited edition, clear and black marbled vinyl, limited to 1,000 copies. So there you go, guys. Number 10, Elegant Weapons with Horns for a Halo. Alrighty, number 9, we're going to talk about an album that came out July 7th, 2023. It was released independently, and this is the second album by this one-man atmospheric black metal project out of New York, and I'm talking about Black Braid with Black Braid 2. Now, I've really enjoyed this album. Despite the entire conversation kind of surrounding this guy, this band, honestly, the conversation's kind of tiring, and he's becoming kind of too big too fast, I guess. But in regards to the actual music, also there's some controversy in there, whatever. Let's talk about the music. So in regard to the actual music, this is a pretty straightforward atmospheric black metal album. The thing that's cool about it, it does have Native American influences in it. So the main guy, songwriter, lyricist, instrumentalist, what have you, he is of Native American heritage. And depending on what interviews you read, and that's part of the controversy. But regardless, so that kind of makes it a little bit different. So here's the 2 LP set, by the way. And then I also have it on cassette and CD as well. I went ahead and just got all 3 because on Bandcamp they were doing all 3 for a pretty good deal. So I took the plunge. As far as the record go, the production is pretty inviting. It's pretty clean for a black metal album. And honestly, it's pretty impressive in terms of quality out of an independent artist. I would say it's a little too shiny for my black metal, but I do dig it. It fits the music pretty well. This album kind of borders on melodic death metal at times, more than black metal, but I think it blends the two pretty well. And I think that's a knock against it when it comes to like black metal purists, but I don't mind it. It's kind of like a heavier Winter Sun, if you know who that is. The acoustic bits and interludes are some of the highlights on this album for me, honestly. And along with those Native American influences that do show up in forms of native instruments and stuff like that, that helps it stand out. There's a lot of atmospheric black metal. It's one of the most popular metal genres going today. Definitely one of the most popular black metal genres. So that little touch makes it stand out. Black Braid definitely isn't the first act to do any of that stuff and combine like Native American themes into black metal, but they have quickly become the most talked about, for better or worse. The playing is really solid. The themes and imagery lend itself well to the music, and this album is a great starter point for kind of an early black metal fan, I would say, especially if you're looking for something to change your view of the genre. I would say, like, if you've never dug black metal, check this out. You probably would dig this, especially if you dig, like, melodic death metal and stuff like that. This could be a good entry point into black metal. Also, if you're a seasoned vet, this probably isn't going to be up your alley. I'm just going to admit it like that. I'm just going to admit that right now. I do enjoy a lot of black metal, but I don't mind when it gets pretty melodic and clean too, and that's what this is. So if you enjoy the heavier side of black metal, this probably isn't your thing. Plus, it's way overhyped and overblown, but it is what it is. I like this record quite a bit. I've enjoyed it for what it is. So this is Black Braid with Black Braid 2 coming in at number 9 this year. Alrighty, coming up next, we're going to talk about the 12th studio album by this band. They're a Swedish progressive metal band now. Early death metal, doom metal band. This came out January 20th, 2023 on Napalm Records. So really early in the year, but it has stuck with me. And that is Catatonia with Sky Void of Stars. This is an album on this list that is a sum greater than its parts. That's what I would have to say about this album for sure. Definitely listen to the entire thing if you're going to dive in. If you're familiar with Catatonia, then this album isn't anything out of left field. It's more of the same stuff that they've done in recent years, but it's expertly crafted prog metal with touches of their classic doom and gloom. For my money, it's probably their most complete album in years that I've enjoyed the most. And it doesn't overstay its welcome, which some of their stuff does. Like by the end, you're kind of tired. But this one is a pretty easy and good, fun listen. The album features a very clean and clear production, highlights everybody really nicely on this record, and they have taken their most distinct elements and glorified them to the nth degree. They bring their gothic vibes, they bring their great atmospheric synth, bring their heavy riffs and excellent gloomy vocals, and they create a nice mix of something that's very familiar but also fresh for Catatonia fans. If you're looking for something dark, gloomy, progressive, but with some great melodic sensibilities, I would suggest definitely check this out. This album fills that void for sure. It's a very fun listen, and they are very talented dudes. I've seen them live. They always put on a good show. They've been doing this for a long time, and they've kind of fallen down the Opeth route of stuff where they're going into more melodic kind of like 70s-ish prog, but they've retained a lot of their elements, like I said. So if you've fallen off on Catatonia, check this out. It's a great record. If you're looking to get into something more proggy and more extreme, still-ish with heavier guitars, check this out. You're probably going to dig this. It's a great record. So Catatonia, Sky Void of Stars, comes in at number 8. All right, with number 7, we're going to talk about a band here that's bringing their debut album. This came out March 3rd, 2023 on 20 Buck Spin. And the band is Majesties. The album is Vast Reaches Unlimited. I'm going to throw this out there. I'm often not a fan of genres or bands that are basically created just to kind of pay tribute to older genres, because oftentimes I find that those older bands did it better. They did it great the first time. And when I was watching Heavy Metallurgy, I was watching one of their streams. 2 members from Majesties were on discussing Swedish melodic death metal, one of my favorite genres ever. And this album, they were discussing this album. I was skeptical but interested when they were talking about it, because they were talking about how this is paying tribute to that sound, that Gothenburg sound, and Swedish melodeath. And I was like, okay, what's this going to be? Is it just going to be really derivative, and where I'd rather listen to At the Gates or Early in Flames or Early Dark Tranquility? You get my point. But when I put this on, I was pleasantly surprised. It surpassed any and all expectations. This is an album that could have stood tall among those giants of the genre in the early to mid 90s. It's a great slab of Swedish melodeath. And it's brought to you by some Americans from Minneapolis, which is kind of funny. But the album cover, the guitar tone, the production, the vocals, they all nail the task of what they're trying to achieve, which is a great tribute to Swedish melodic death metal, but also sounding extremely relevant too. And it doesn't come off as like a tribute act vibes, which is a fine line to walk when you're doing something like this, but they walk it with ease. You can tell they are true fans of the genre, and that's how they got this sound and this vibe. If you like Swedish melodeath, especially 90s Swedish melodic death metal, like I said, At the Gates, Early in Flames, Dark Tranquility, that type of stuff, this is for you. I absolutely adore this. It's pretty cheap on 20 Buck Spin. Their whole gimmick is like 20 bucks, so check it out. You can get it on their Bandcamp. Majesties with Vast Reaches Unlimited comes in at number 7 this year. All right, number 6 is a band that has a prolific output, to say the least. This is their 16th studio album. They are a Norwegian prog, black, extreme metal band, Viking metal, whatever you want to call them. And this came out March 3rd, 2023, same date as the last record I just showed. And that's Enslaved with their new album, Heimdall. This album is a grower, and I'm going to say, much like all Enslaved albums, at least for me, they are always growers. The more you put into them, the more you get out of them. This is no different. Enslaved has carved a really great niche of Norse-themed progressive metal, and this is more of the same. This Enslaved probably has way more in common with like 70s prog than it does Norwegian black metal at this point, because that's kind of where their origins lie, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Enslaved still maintains their heaviness nicely while expanding the sound, like always. Heimdall is a journey that should be taken as a whole, much like most of these records on this list. And it is dense. It's definitely a dense listen. I suggest listen to it with a good pair of headphones and listen to high quality streaming if you're going to stream it. Listen to something on Cubase or Apple Music. I would suggest not listen to it on Spotify because it doesn't do it justice. It really doesn't. This record rewards subsequent listenings with new earworms every time you listen to it. It's a really catchy record in parts, really good riffing and catchy guitar tone and vocal melodies throughout. It's a really great modern production. That's kind of a rare thing in modern times. I really don't like modern metal productions, but Enslaved always nails it. If you're familiar with Enslaved, this album isn't going to catch you off guard. They're not going into left field and like totally changing things up. It is more of the same expertly crafted prog metal. But if you are new and enjoy more extreme versions of prog, then give this a shot. I would say really any of the last like 10, 15 years of Enslaved albums are good starting points if you want something proggy that's not too heavy. If you get farther back than that, then they do have some of their black metal roots, and that can turn people off. But I would just check this out if you're looking for something proggy that still retains some of its hard edge with a lot of 70s like Pink Floyd, King Crimson influences. But for my money, Enslaved, along with Mastodon, are the two premier prog metal bands going today, and this album, Heimdall, backs that up tremendously. This is a excellent album, great album cover. Highly suggest check it out. Comes in at number 6 this year for me, Enslaved with Heimdall. All right, coming in at number 5 is a band called Fathom Age, and this is their newest release, Autumn's Dawn, Winter's Darkness. Came out March 10th, 2023. It was released independently, and this is the 7th album by this one-man Australian black metal project. This is the collector's edition. Got this on Bandcamp. It's out of 100. I have number 26 out of 100. Great album cover. That's the vibes of this album. That's the perfect album cover for this album. It's a great piece of atmospheric black metal. It's an album that is equal parts triumphant and melancholic at the same time. It's very epic, but can be very sad and depressing at times. Similar to like Coward and Brood, Summoning, and a plethora of other atmospheric black metal bands. If you like that stuff, you're going to like this. This features over 75 minutes of music, so it is a long one, but songs are paced nicely with many different time signatures and passages to keep things interesting. You do not get bored listening to this record. At least I definitely didn't, for sure. The fact that this is a one-man project, too, is very impressive, considering the playing on this is very, very good. Very good. Very interesting. Doing interesting things with the guitar. Good riffing. Very atmospheric with the synths, and the drumming sounds really good. I think this is real drums, too, which is kind of rare for this genre, so that is appreciated. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. They sound real enough to me. Great use of keys, like I said, acoustics and symphonic elements litter the album throughout a barrage of harsh vocals and tremolo black metal guitar. It's a pretty bare bones production, but honestly, that adds to the atmosphere so well. It's perfect, captures the vibe perfectly. Provides the listener with a very ethereal experience. Like by the time you get to the end of this, you're kind of wore out because it's a long record, but you want to go again, because it's a really fun journey. This is one of my favorite black metal releases of the year. Obviously, it's in my top 10, and it cracked the top 5. So Fathom Age, Autumn's Dawn, Winter's Darkness. Check this out if you are into atmospheric black metal. This is awesome. What a great album cover as well. Such a great release, and honestly, this guy's doing a ton of great stuff and very prolific. Like I said, this is his 7th album, and he's only been going a few years, so he's churning stuff out, and for my money, this is his best so far. So check this out, Fathom Age. All right, so next up is an album that people have been waiting a very, very long time for. This is the 10th studio album by this man. He's an English prog art rock pop musician, and that is I.O. by Peter Gabriel. This came out December 1st, 2023, so very recently on Real World Records. Haven't had a ton of time with this, but I've spun it a lot in the, 2 weeks, a week or so that has come out, and it is already in my top 5, and it could move up. Honestly, if I delayed this a few more weeks, it could definitely move up. This is an album decades in the making, like I said. Peter's I.O. has been talked about one from the other since the 90s, and it's his first studio album in 21 years, and this does not disappoint. All of these songs were released as singles on every full moon throughout the year, so he's keeping himself kind of in the news cycle. It's a nifty marketing campaign, but I didn't really I wasn't really into it. I wanted to avoid it and just kind of experience the album as a whole instead of in each individual parts. I think lead singles and advanced songs have gotten way overblown in the era of streaming, and I don't like to spoil the entire record before it comes out. I get why he did it. It kind of fits the theme and what he was going for here, and it's a cool gimmick, but it wasn't for me. Io doesn't really rewrite the Gabriel rulebook. If you're familiar with a lot of his solo stuff, this is more of the same, but is a great celebration of this man's career. It's got many callbacks throughout and little sounds that you can tell are taken kind of from previous albums and references to older stuff. It's pretty uncomplicated, honestly. It leans way more on his pop sensibilities than his prog, but you do get some funky sections and some proggy sections throughout, and some really great ballads on here. Peter can always do a really good ballad. Very introspective record, too. This is an ambitious project by him. This set contains 3 mixes. If you get the standard CD set, you get 2 different mixes, the bright side and dark side. This contains bright side, dark side, and the Dolby Atmos inside mix. You can also get the dual mixes on 2 different 2LP sets. I went with this because it was the way to get it most cost effective and get everything that I wanted. But honestly, that sounds like it could be a bloated mess with all these mixes. But the mixes are different, and they are different enough to necessitate being on here. Honestly, each one adds a totally different vibe to the record, and it's fun to listen through because it gives you something else to listen to, and your ears grab onto different things as you listen to every time. It's like kind of grabbing a new Peter Gabriel record every time you pick something. Which mix are you going to listen to? It's very cool. I dig that he did that. A lot of artists wouldn't do that, and they would just choose the best one to their ears. So Peter said, here, you decide. I love that. Constantly, you are picking up on new things as you're listening to it. His band is extremely talented, as always. Peter himself sounds great. He doesn't really seem to age. I think his voice and his range lends itself really well, and his vocal abilities really haven't diminished to my ears. It's definitely a layer-filled album which appreciates repeat listenings, like I was saying before. If you are familiar with 90s Peter Gabriel, it is very similar yet strangely different at the same time. Like, you get a kind of finality with this album, which may be by design, because he might know this is probably his last album, last big tour, and as he's getting older. So who knows what's going to happen, but I'm very stoked that this finally came out, and I'm stoked that, Peter's still doing new music. He's a great voice and a very talented musician who has things to say, and I appreciate basically everything that the dude's done. Honestly, he's an inspiration. So Io from Peter Gabriel comes in at number 4 on my top 10. Alrighty, guys, we are in my top 3 records of 2023, and this next one is the 14th studio album by this Swedish metal band. This came out February 10th, 2023 on Nuclear Blast Records, so a lot of Nuclear Blast on this list. They had a good year, and this is a band that I love and an album that I love and will stick with me for a very long time, and that is In Flames with their 14th studio album, like I said, For Gone. Thing with In Flames is that every album gets labeled as a return to form. I kind of don't really buy into any of that stuff because I like modern In Flames. I like old In Flames. I like mostly their whole discography in varying forms of, yeah, that's good to I absolutely love it. But honestly, this was meant to kind of bring the heavy and the death metal back to the sound. And For Gone didn't disappoint. It's a heavy record. It's one of their heaviest albums in years. And it might not bring the melodeath back entirely. Like, this doesn't sound exactly like Clayman or Gestured Race. But it brings it nice. It pairs the old with the new rather nicely, like I said. Chris Broderick is on guitar on here, and one of the guitar players, and he has been a great addition to this band. That dude nails it, formerly of Megadeth and Jag Panzer. He's an awesome guitar player, really fun to watch live too. It lends a ton to the overall sound, his playing, I would say, and has some great soloing as well throughout this album. Anders, lead vocalist, hasn't sounded this good in years. Bjorn, the other guitar player, also still stellar and kind of the rock of the band, so to speak. Tanner Wayne on drums and Bryce Paul on bass. They fill out the rhythm section rather nicely. This is a really good lineup for In Flames, who have changed the lineup a lot, especially in recent years. I really do not think there is a bad track on there, and this could have been higher other than the fact that the top two albums I just absolutely fell in love with. Like I said, I don't think there's a bad track here. If you are a lapsed In Flames fan, give this a shot. It might not bring you back to Clayman, but like I said, it's very, very close, and it's very good with a great production, and the band sounds awesome. If you are brand new, this is also a very great starting point because it combines both that old and new with it. So like I said, coming in at number 3, In Flames with Foregone. This is the strictly limited edition from Nuclear Blast on red vinyl, limited to 2000. Check this out. It's an excellent, excellent heavy metal, mellow death record. Alrighty, guys, we are in the top 2. So these are records that I absolutely adore, and I will listen to a ton and have listened to a ton this year and throughout the last couple months. And it was tough choosing a top one, but I had to do it. So Immortal, War Against All, May 26, 2023 from Nuclear Blast Records, the 10th studio album by the Norwegian black metal titans, comes in at number 2. Another Nuclear Blast Records band. Like I said, this is War Against All, and this is on cloudy, polar white, ice blue vinyl, limited to 700 copies. So pretty low on the variant there. Very cool album cover, very immortally. This is the second Immortal album since Abath and Demonaz split up. And this one basically features Demonaz as essentially the only musician and principal songwriter. He does get some help with some bass and guitars by Enslaved guitarists who made their appearance on this list earlier, Ice Dale, and other Norwegian black metal musician Kevin Kaval on drums. If you are familiar with Immortal, this is more of the same. That's perfect for me because I love Immortal and I love what they do. They're simply their simple riff-based melodic approach to modern black metal fits with me every time. If you are not familiar with Immortal, my best comparison is they are the AC/DC of black metal. They know what they do. They know what they do well, and they do it constantly, and they rarely stray from that path. But like I said, they usually satisfy that itch that only they can fill because they get it with the epic riffs and the grand soundscapes that they create within those kind of simple riffs and the vocals and the production. It's a total package. It truly is. They are catchy as hell. The riffing, the solos, the blast beats, the double bass, the head-banging riffs. This is 38 minutes of awesomeness. Abath and Demonaz both know how to create catchy riffs, and Demonaz has continued on that legacy with this record. Immortal is the perfect gateway black metal band. If you want to get into black metal, check out Immortal. I would say even more so than Demi Borger, because if you like riffs, if you like heaviness, if you like headbanging, this is the band for you, especially the last 20 plus years of releases. The earlier stuff is very, very heavy, kind of raw black metal, but as they progressed, they turned into more, they started using their influences, AC/DC, Kiss, that type of stuff, and combining it with black metal, kind of create a rock and roll version of black metal. War Against All is awesome. And you could start here, but just check out their entire discography. It's all varying degrees of great, in my opinion. If you enjoy ice, frost, cold weather, headbanging, this is for you. My only negative is that I think this album could sound better with Abath on some of the songs doing vocals, and also some of his solos are sorely missed. But Demonaz doing the vocals and the majority of the songwriting and musicianship more than satisfies. Long live Immortal. This album's great. Comes in at number 2, War Against All. Alrighty, guys, my number 1 of 2023. It's been a fun list to do. Many ranging genres. Got some prog, got some black metal, a little bit of heavy-ish death metal in there, sorta. And this is going to fall strictly kind of in the prog realm, but not entirely. This came out October 6th, 2023 from Inside Out Music. This is the 6th solo studio album by this man. He's from South Africa, and this is his first vocal-led solo album in over 30 years. And that's Trevor Raven's Rio. Trevor Raven is a former Yes member. He's largely responsible for their 80s revival that they had, and he's returned. And I love Trevor Raven. 90125 is one of my favorite Yes records. I adore that record. I love his songwriting. And honestly, if you don't even know who Trevor Raven is, chances are you have heard some of his work because he's done countless soundtracks and scores and TV show themes and stuff like that. He's a great musician. But Trevor's back, and he's a massively successful instrumentalist and composer, like I said. So chances are you've heard him, whether you realize it or not. This is a terrific album. It's filled with some amazing soundscapes. It bears repeat listenings because it rewards you every time. Each song has a strong cinematic approach, so you can tell where kind of his writing for movies and TV comes into kind of this album-oriented realm. But he combines some great pop sensibilities on every song. But each song is different enough to keep you interested. That's where the progginess comes in. You're going to get a Southern rock influence song, and then some more really cinematic vibes with a lot of synth and keys and stuff, and then a lot of strings. This record is very poppy, but very interesting because it takes banjo and guitar and synth and drums and vocals and yada, 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 and combines them into a great poppy mix that is very catchy to the listener, catchy to the ear, but very interesting if you are into prog and you want something that varies greatly. So I would say like the biggest surprise on this is the strong Southern rock influences. They blend so well with Trevor's vocals that it's amazing. Honestly, at points in this time, this record sounds like a 90s country album. The production on it is exquisite, and that's a high compliment coming from me, because I truly believe some of those 90s country albums, like when country was at its peak, honestly, in my opinion, those are some of the most well-produced albums of all time if you're into like kind of like a pop-oriented approach to album production. And this album has that in spades. Like I said, it's an album full of guitar, banjo, synth, strings, vocals, bass, drums. Trevor does it all. Pop, rock, prog, country, etc. Like, this album shouldn't work, but he pulls it off. Raven performs the vast majority of instruments and vocals on Rio, which is a testament to the dude's genius. If you are a fan of Raven era Yes, and you haven't given this a shot, then there's a ton to enjoy here. You will definitely dig it. If you want some great music with tons of variety, this is for you. It's expertly crafted. Everything has a place. Everything is intentional. You can tell that Trevor wanted to have a lot of fun, too, and do what he wanted to do. And it's been a long time coming. So Rio, to me, doesn't disappoint. It's my #1 album of the year. I've listened to this a ton, and it's only been out 2 months, basically. A little bit over 2 months. Check out Rio. He even did the album cover. He painted this. So basically everything on this is him, which I adore. I'm a big Devin Townsend fan who has a very similar approach to his stuff, very hands-on, does a lot of the instruments, does the production, all that stuff himself. And Trevor did that with this project, and he nails it. This is the 2 LP. This is a Seafoam Green variant. And then I also picked up the 2 CD. This is the CD and Blu-ray set. So 1 CD and Blu-ray, kind of a digibook package. And this is pretty nice. You got a nice gatefold with a good book too. There's Trevor right there. And it's pretty crazy. Sorry about that. It's pretty crazy too. You go in here and you look at the liner notes and you see just all the stuff that Trevor does on here. And like I said, he does it all. So, number one, Trevor Raven with Rio. It is my favorite album of 2023. Alrighty, guys, if you made it this far, thanks so much for watching and tuning into the channel. I greatly appreciate it. If you want to hit the like button and subscribe, I would also greatly appreciate that. Hang out with us. We do a podcast basically weekly, pretty much every week here on the channel, where me and my best friend Tyler discuss a specific music-related topic, or we do vinyl hauls and show off our records and cassettes and CD purchases that we've had throughout the last few months. So if you like that type of stuff, like I said, stick around with us. Comment down below also which of these albums did you enjoy, and what are some of your favorite albums of 2023? Like I said, it's been a great year for music. I've had a ton to listen to, and a lot of these albums are going to maintain their rotation as well. Like, sometimes you go through years where you really like that album for that year or that 6 months, and it does make your top 10, but throughout the rest of time, like, it falls off. Where I think a number of these records I'm going to go back to quite a bit, especially like in the top 5. There was some bangers this year. So anyways, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace.